Chaos. There's really no other word that can describe Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin. Since its announcement at E3 2021, it has been an incredibly polarizing game, and one that has just struck a chord with me instantly for many reasons. I am a huge Final Fantasy fan ever since the PlayStation 1 era growing up. I love Koei Tecmo. I have been a Team Ninja fan for the longest time, not only from their stuff like Ninja Gaiden, but also with Nioh, Hyrule Warriors, etc. I think this game has got to be one of the most insane things I have played in recent history, and it has sunk its hooks into me in a way that I did not think. I thought, I'm going to pick this up. I enjoyed the beta. I enjoyed even the initial early alpha testing they did right after announcement. This game had always seemed really fun to me, but this thing is a mess. It's a hot, greasy mess, like eating fast food at 2 in the morning. But sometimes when you find just the right gross fast food place at 2 in the morning, it hits in such a right way that you make it your go-to spot every time you want that hilarious, sloppy, drunk adventure. Stranger of Paradise is my sloppy, messy game of the year. Not in terms of overall, but there are very few games that will make me feel the myriad of emotions this game did. Stranger of Paradise is crazy. You can talk about it from the memes, from the visuals that look like a PlayStation 3 game, even though it is a 70 gigabyte game that somehow strides that line of looking impressive and impressively ugly at the same time. It's truly, truly a crazy game, and one of the things that I keep going back to with it is I think this is going to be a game that grows on a lot of people the further we get from it. Because now that I have played it to completion, and surprising even myself, I platinumed this game, after spending almost 50 hours with it, it was such an interesting experience that hasn't really shaken away from me of this is like the room of video games, in my opinion. This was not meant to be a funny game, but you can laugh all the way home to it. These were not characters that you were supposed to look at their very drab attire and then laugh at how much they stick out like a sore thumb. But it all complements each other so well, and I have to give a huge shout out to the localization team at Square Enix, and also shout out to the English voice acting team over at PCB Productions. Easily, the one thing everyone can agree who I know has played both versions, the English voice cast is the one to go. Because if you play this game in its original Japanese language, they play this very straight. This is not meant to like the tone that they have is not really as funny or as lighthearted as the English cast ends up being, and that main cast I ended up finding myself bonding over way more. Jack, Jed, Ash, and all the others, even the side characters, I was just surprised of wow, I'm invested in this world, even though this game has a pretty light story for how absolutely insane it is. But rambling aside, because I do want to kind of make this a quicker impressions/review video, gameplay-wise for this game, it is extremely addicting while still being messy. You are running through various different levels. All of these levels are set in the world of Final Fantasy 1, but the whole point about it is each level has something from another Final Fantasy game. So some levels you may notice are taking elements from 15, 13, 7, and so on. And I thought little Easter eggs like that, something about Koei Tecmo, when they work with IP, they really know what to pull and what to reference in a way that really cuts deep. You can tell that this is made by people who really know and respect Final Fantasy as a series. So there's a lot of fun stuff there in the world of Final Fantasy Origin, and then also the gameplay itself. It is much more forgiving, thankfully, than something like Nioh, but it will still crush your teeth in an instant. There are multiple difficulty levels. If you just want to go through and experience the story version and the casual modes are very, very nice, but if you want a decent challenge without getting your teeth kicked in, I think action mode is great. Hard mode is a pretty decent challenge, and then when you beat the game, you unlock chaos mode. Chaos mode is a whole different ball of wax that I was honestly thinking I wouldn't touch at all. When I unlocked it, I was like, well, I'm probably not going to platinum this game, so let's at least kind of check it out. But this game has such a interesting, rewarding loop in two different fields. First up is the job tree. So you don't normally level up. You don't have your base stats. You have equipment, which has its own levels, and then you have jobs. So the jobs that you can select from are vast. The job trees are really, really nice. You level them up at a very quick pace that it all feels really, really rewarding. And the more you level up jobs, the more jobs you unlock. So different jobs may be tied into each other. Do you want to just be like a normal warrior? Do you want to become a thief? Do you want to be a blue mage, a red mage? Do you want to become a sage? Do you want to just unlock these crazy unique powers? And each of these jobs are really great because I messed with every single one, and even though there were jobs I probably, I was never a huge fan of magic, it makes you learn it in a way that doesn't feel like it's forcing you. You can ignore all the jobs, you can just hone yourself into one job, and it does a really nice way of teaching you how to use your job to the best of your ability, while also saying, hey, these are other little things. Like maybe if you want a certain job, you have to max out the job tree for a job you've never touched, so then that'll bring you over to something like a dragoon. I was like, I'm probably not really big into spears or axes, and it made me see that every weapon is viable. Every job class is fun. There's something that's going to put a smile on my face. There was never a job that I thought this was a waste of space. Even something of just like being a fighter or being a monk with no weapon, just punching stuff. It was very fun and very satisfying. The combat loop is great. And then speaking of the combat loop, there is so much equipment in this game. You are constantly picking up equipment to the point where they actually recently just patched in auto dismantle. So much like Neo, if you've played it, you are constantly in the menus picking up equipment, and thankfully there is an optimize button, which basically means whenever you pick up enough stuff, every now and then, just go to the menu, press the touchpad button if you're playing on PlayStation. It'll give you all the highest level clothes to wear, weapons to wear, shields, stuff like that, etc. But it's nice that it's there because there are definitely some in-game stuff. Like if you want to start doing level 300 missions, whether it be single player or multiplayer, which by the way, shout out to it being multiplayer, it was really, really deep, but super shallow if you don't ever want to touch it, which I think is the right balance, because certain things like Neo, I know, kind of turn people off with the equipment. So even though Final Fantasy Origin is something a lot more different than Neo, even though it's based off Neo a lot in its core gameplay, it was nice that they kind of found the right balance between you can be as hardcore or casual as you want with how you play this game, not even just in difficulty, but just in terms of menu and micromanaging. So, last thing I'm going to say is the story. This game's story, no spoilers, is one of the most insane things I have ever played. It is a story that simultaneously cares so much and so little about its actual plot all at the same time. It is truly commendable. You are introduced to this world as Jack. Jack is just the equivalent of skip dialogues. I don't want to talk. I have my friends. Bonds are important to me, but I don't want to have flashbacks. Flashbacks are his red flags. He will get triggered talking about the past. He moves forward. He does not want to be weighed down by the past. He has one goal and only one intention in mind, and that is to kill chaos. He is thirsty for chaos. And this game takes a simple premise of 3 bros have black crystals and want to kill chaos, and made something I genuinely cared about. I had a wide array of emotions from this game's story. It is amazing. The tale, something so laughable. Like, this is not a story I should have been emotionally invested in. I thought I was just going to laugh at it the whole time, but I legitimately found myself interested in the world of it, the lore of this world, not only how it tied into Final Fantasy 1 as a prequel, but also just in the sense of, like, these characters, and, like, seriously, like, these bonds, like, meant a lot to me. Like, Neon and Sophia and stuff like that, meeting them, joining them, adding them to your party, learning about everybody, the people who you lose along the way, it was so incredibly, like, moving to me in a way of, like, I'm not, like, saying this is, like, Oscar-winning performances, but because you're spending all of this game with these characters. There's never a moment where you're split up with each other. You're always with each other. And the game does a nice job of showing you all that they're all different. Like, it's not like Jack is on a team full of Jacks. But his teammates, like Jed and all of them, like, they all know how Jack is, and there's this great moment at the end It's a mission that involves all of the characters, and what's so great about it was when you realize that they have all been kind of tiptoeing around Jack for a very specific reason because of how dedicated and how, like, determined he is to stop and kill chaos. It was this really interesting moment of, like, wow, that actually makes sense. And again, I thought this was a great story just in the sense of, wow, I wasn't expecting that. The ending is insane. The moments that happen while you're doing these, like, boss fights or while these story cutscenes are happening are really, really interesting. It was a great game, but it was also one of those things of, like, I don't need more from a sequel, but I am extremely glad they are doing DLC. The DLC campaigns that Team Ninja did for Neo and Neo 2 were very, very good, so I hope that they kind of build up from those things that they've learned through making this base game, and I'm excited for what the future may hold, but as a base game, I cannot recommend Final Fantasy Origin enough. By yourself or in multiplayer, it is super fun to play. The soundtrack is amazing, and if you can get over that this is not a pretty game, but this is an interesting game, I cannot recommend it enough. It is a personal standout for one of my favorite games I have played, and it is even now up there with one of my favorite Final Fantasy games of all time, which I am 100% serious. I love this series. This is such a great entry. Jack is now legitimately one of my favorite protagonists from Final Fantasy of all time, and I hope this is not the last time we see Team Ninja working with Square Enix again, because I can only imagine what a bigger and more polished future game with them collaborating could really show. So if you've played the game, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you love it? Do you hate it? I know not everyone's going to love this game, but after sinking so much time into playing it for myself, I had to make this video and just talk about it. And I know this is me mostly rambling, but this was just such a fun, sloppy mess of a game that I am so glad exists, and I am so glad I got to play in Platinum this year, and I cannot recommend it to enough people. If you enjoy videos like this, let me know what you think. Feel free. I love getting as much feedback for stuff like this as I can in the comments below. You can find me online, links and everything like that in the description. Subscribing really, really helps. Let me know what games you would like to see me cover. I'm always playing a ton of games and always need more excuses to work on video reviews like this, so let me know what you think. I will talk to you all later, and have a good rest of your day.